Hello and welcome to episode 26 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. I'm so excited and thrilled to be doing this episode. With 52 weeks in a year, episode 26 marks our 6-month anniversary. We have continued to grow each week and it has been a blast. Today I will be joined by two women who deserve a lot of the credit for why the show has lasted so long. Later on, my wife Courtney will be here to discuss our recent visit to Biergarten in the Germany Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. We will start the episode with Marissa from Chicago. A few weeks ago, Marissa and I talked about things that are returning to Walt Disney World and a few new things that are opening at the parks. Well, as is often the case when Marissa and I get yakking, we couldn't stop. We continue that conversation today. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the show with friends. In half a year, we have grown a lot, but we want to keep moving in the right direction. Of course, I am also an authorized Disney travel planner with Ear to There Travel. My services are always 100% free to you. I can help you plan your next trip to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, your next Disney Cruise Line cruise, trip to Universal Orlando Resort, Universal Hollywood, New York City, Las Vegas, and almost anywhere else in the world. You don't pay me a dime, but you will really help the show by contacting me. Rick at eartotheretravel.com. Rick at eartotheretravel.com. You can also call 727-507-3123. 727-507-3123. Now let's welcome my good friend Marissa from Chicago in episode 23. Marissa and I discussed a number of things returning to Disney. Let's continue that conversation today with the Disney dining plan. Walt Disney World has announced that it will be returning. Marissa, have you ever done the dining plan?
So I've done the dining plan exactly once, and that's because I am definitely a type A planner when it comes to Disney. And it was a trip I was doing right out of college. So I was really trying to budget everything down to the cent. So I would know how much I would be spending, every meal. And as I was adding up these places that my friend and I were planning to dine at, I was looking at the dining plan and going, hold on, this would actually save us money. So that was when I did the dining plan. It ended up saving us a ton of money, but that was because we did it very strategically. We did not spend less than $5 on a snack. We ate at all the places that would get us the most bang for our buck. We really, really planned it out. And I haven't done it since then because, for that similar reason, the places I was eating, it wouldn't make sense to do it. But I think for certain people, it's a great option. I know a lot of people love just being able to feel like everything's paid for. They don't have to worry about pulling out their wallet to pay for a meal on vacation. It's already done. So I think that it still holds a lot of value for a lot of guests. And I think it's great that it's going to be coming back. I'm not surprised.
I know people were wondering why it wasn't there, and I do literally think the reason was it was so hard to get dining reservations that they didn't want to sell you a table service dining plan and then have you unable to get a table service restaurant. So it definitely makes sense why they didn't have it. I think the fact that it's coming back is good news for people who don't even do the Disney dining plan, because that probably means they're expecting reservations to start getting a little easier.
Yeah, and I think it does mean, like you were saying, that they're planning on opening all these restaurants that have been closed, or they're planning on upping capacity for these restaurants. So it should be easier and a little bit better to get those reservations. And, I think it makes sense from Disney's end to bring it back because they do typically make quite a bit of money on the plan because a lot of people don't get the full value in the plan. And, it was only really a matter of time. I personally will be surprised to see it back this year. I think a more reasonable expectation would be next year, just in terms of having everything open and then, reservations being harder to get in the fall with the 50th just kicking off. But I would love to see it back sooner. That'd be a pleasant surprise.
And speaking of restaurants that are coming back, one is going to be opening for the first time, and it looks like we're getting it for the 50th, and that is Space 220 at Epcot. This is going to be an awesome experience. It's going to feel like you are going 220 miles into space, and you are going to have a dining experience. It is going to be a signature restaurant. I guarantee you this is going to be the new Biergarten. This is going to be the new Oga's Cantina. This is going to be the reservation to get when it opens at Epcot. How much are you going to try to experience this early, or are you going to wait for some of the hype to die down a little?
Oh, I'm not waiting. If it's open for my October trip, I want to do everything I can to be there. This restaurant just seems so incredible. And for me, ever since I was a little kid, I've been a huge space nerd. So this idea that I can go dine in a restaurant that feels like I'm actually in outer space, I've been in love with the concept since day one. So this is definitely going to be a must do for me. You know, yeah, like I said, I'm doing everything I can to be there. I hope it's open when I'm there. I hope I'm able to get a reservation. We'll see. Are you as excited for it, or are you more of like I'll wait and see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you know the answer to that. If I can go the first day it's open, I'm going to be there. I'm one of those people who has that FOMO, that fear of missing out. I love to be there the first day everything happens. It was so hard to keep me away from Magic Kingdom on July 1st, knowing that it was going to be the first day Happily Ever After returned. I'm a person who loves to go the first day. I was there the first day Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened at Walt Disney World. I was there the day Rise opened. I was there for the first showing of Epcot Forever. I do that kind of stuff, so I'll be trying to get that reservation like absolute crazy.
So we're on the same page. This seems like it's going to be a great restaurant, and we'll have to talk about our experience at some point when we both can try it.
And a very different style of restaurant has also reopened at Walt Disney World. And I think this is a really good sign. And that's Casey's Corner is back on Main Street, USA. I understand why it took them so long to reopen this restaurant, because it gets packed in there. But I think they've figured out a way to do mobile ordering, make it a little more, have it make sense a little more to have that number of people in the restaurant. Casey's Corner is not the fanciest place on Walt Disney World property. It is not a fancy place at all, but it definitely serves its purpose. It's pretty good quick service food in a park that doesn't have a lot of great quick service restaurants.
Yeah, it's definitely great that it's coming back. I think that, like you said, it's always pretty consistent with the quality of its food. I feel like you never go there and you're like, oh, I hope they're not having an off day. You know you're going to get a solid meal there whenever you go. And I think it will be great because it is such a fan favorite. I think it's going to help alleviate the stress of mobile order around the rest of the restaurants in the park. I think giving that other option that is so popular is going to help open up slots everywhere else. So people have been saying, like, hey, I hate when I want to mobile order and there's nothing for 2 hours. I think this is going to help make a huge improvement in that process.
And just on an aesthetic level, to have this restaurant that was such a big part of Main Street USA and that turn of the 20th century aesthetic not open definitely took you out of that time period and put you right back into pandemic time period. So now that it is reopened, I hope that it just obviously doesn't make people forget that we have to still be safe and all that stuff, but just sort of alleviates that stress for just a few minutes because it keeps you in that world. Staying in Magic Kingdom and heading over to Fantasyland, this is something that's new that just recently got announced, and I'm really excited for this, and that's Coco is going to be added to Mickey's PhilharMagic. This is a show that I absolutely love. I adore Mickey's PhilharMagic, but it needed something. It needed something added to it. Hopefully, they can do a little work on the technology and make that 3D technology a little crisper. But starting to add some newer intellectual property to that show, is taking it out of something that felt very much of its time and maybe bringing it into the current day a little more. What do you think about this edition?
I'm so excited for it. I think that Coco is a great choice of a movie to add. I think that whole movie was so visually stunning and just beautiful that being able to see that animation on the Mickey's PhilharMagic screen and in that 3D environment is going to be just an incredible experience. And like you said, I really hope that they can update the rest of the scenes as well to kind of freshen up that quality of it so it matches the Coco segment. And I think it's just going to improve the show as a whole.
I 100% agree. I think that is something that I skip so often because it hasn't been updated in a long time. And now it's going to give me an excuse to get out of the heat, go in and see that every once in a while, which is just going to get more people out of Fantasyland and into this attraction. And the more people where you can do that, the more comfortable Fantasyland is for everyone. Speaking of adding Pixar to something that has been around for a little while, what do you think about the Incredibles re-theme to some of the rooms at the Contemporary Resort?
I think it looks really nice. I think they did a really great job with it. Personally, I think it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective. Um, from Disney's perspective, they have the Art of Animation Resort, which is a value resort, but families love staying there because the kids get so excited about being able to be immersed in those characters. So it makes sense that then they'd take one of their flagship deluxe resorts and add those characters to it because then you're going to have kids going, I want to stay in an Incredibles room. I want to stay with the Incredibles. And then you're going to get parents going, okay, I guess we can splurge and stay with the Incredibles because you love that movie and this would, make your trip so much better. So I think from a business perspective, it makes sense. And I think from a design perspective, they did a great job. The rooms are a lot of fun. They still feel like they fit that contemporary theme. They feel fresh. I think it's one of the best refurbs they've done recently.
When you first hear about the Incredibles at the Contemporary, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But then once you see some of the concept art, I definitely think they did a really good job of finding a way to thread that needle, keep it feeling like the original plan for the resort while also adding some of that IP. So the Incredibles might be a reason to finally splurge on a deluxe resort for your family. But there's also another one, and this one is a little bit controversial. Extra Magic Hours are returning in a way, but only for those people staying at deluxe resorts. What did you think when you heard about this?
Yeah, I think that bringing the nighttime hours back for only deluxe resorts is definitely going to elicit some mixed responses from people because you are taking away something that people at all resort levels were used to getting. And that's always a tough adjustment to make. But I think Disney had previously sort of set the stage that nighttime hours were going to become a pay to play option with the addition of after hours and those being so popular and those getting more and more frequent throughout the years. They were finding ways to do after hours and then villains after hours so you could do something a little different during Halloween season. They wanted you to pay more to get into the parks at night. So I think this follows that and it makes sense. And I think for people coughing up that extra money at deluxe resorts, they're going to be very happy. I usually don't stay at deluxe resorts, but I get it. I do understand the thought process behind it.
However, the next time you are going to be there, you will be at a deluxe resort. So maybe they actually did convince you that it was worth the extra money.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's gonna change my mind to turn away from Pop Century for a while. I definitely had a little bit of like a yes moment because I was like, all right, that works out with my plans that I already have. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to experience.
And the last major thing I want to discuss with you as we discuss new things returning and some things debuting at Walt Disney World, I know you are going to experience this on your fall trip. I'm going to be experiencing it as well. Boo Bash starting August 10th at Magic Kingdom, sort of a replacement for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I'm going to be going on August 20th, just about a week and a half after it starts for the general public. So I'll obviously have more details about it after I've experienced it. Marissa will be going in the fall. What do you think about Boo Bash, and what do we even know about it?
Yeah, I feel like they definitely announced it and have been promoting it as that after hours event where they said, okay, we're not going to do a parade, we're not going to do fireworks, but we are going to have cavalcades, which I'm really looking forward to. I think those are going to be cool. I would like to see them do a fireworks show. I know they won't, but I think that would be nice if they added that in. I believe there's going to be specialty food and beverage options available while you're there. I think it's going to be a good event if they can manage to keep the crowds low. I think that's the one thing it hinges on is them holding the event to after hours capacity instead of saying, well, it's the replacement for Mickey's Not So Scaries, so we'll just do that capacity. Because you are getting a different event where you don't have the stage shows and the characters and things like that to draw people away from the rides. So it depends on that. I think as the event starts, and you'll obviously be able to experience the crowd levels and kind of assess to say, maybe they went a little above what they should have, or maybe they stuck with it. I don't know.
There's a whole cottage industry about guessing what Disney is doing when they're not telling us what they're doing. And it has never been more apparent than with Boo Bash. I remember a Twitter thread. I think you were actually the person who made the comment when somebody said, are we sure Disney actually ever said this was going to be like an after hours limited capacity? And you pulled up the wording and highlighted it. And you were like, they're definitely hinting at it at least. I never did an after hours event. I figured it didn't necessarily make sense for me as somebody who goes as much as I do to pay that money just to basically ride rides with short waits because I can ride almost anything whenever I want. I did do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party a few times. I thought that was important to experience so I could tell everybody about it. I'm hoping this definitely airs more on the side of an after hours event than on the side of a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party with less options available.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm genuinely sad about not having for this event is the Boo to You parade. I'm really not a parade person at all. I mean, you know that we've talked about this, but the one parade that I love is the Boo to You parade, which totally shocked me by how much I enjoyed it. And I just hope that with the cavalcades, they'll be able to evoke some of that feeling and maybe put bits of the song in there so you kind of get a little bit of that.
So, on that note, I think they're going to be able to do it because the cavalcades that they ran during the Halloween season last year, that were just there during the day, during regular park hours, they incorporated some of the Boo to You elements. I think when it is nighttime and they're able to add some of those spooky elements, I think it's going to be really, really good. I definitely think Disney was frustrated giving you all that Jack from Nightmare Before Christmas without having you pay an extra fee. So so I think his cavalcade is only going to appear during Boo Bash starting this year in 2021. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am wrong on this one. The thing that I'm going to miss is the show, the stage show, and that's because my favorite villain, without a doubt, is Dr. Facilier. I love Dr. Facilier, and he was such a fun part of that show. And I'm not a huge castle stage show person, so the fact that I enjoyed this show so much really does say something.
Yeah, I hope that now things have changed a little bit, even from them announcing Boo Bash, and they've started to, they've brought fireworks back since then. I hope that they can introduce a stage show and give people a reason to kind of hang out by the castle or maybe not be only waiting in line for rides. And the stage shows at special events, I think, are a lot of fun, and they are another exclusive thing that you can't get at just a regular day in the park.
Thank you so much for joining me again, Marissa. Where can people go on Twitter to follow your thoughts on theme parks?
I am at Think Mickey blog. There's a lot of thoughts on there from everything from Disney and musicals and hockey and Universal, and it's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. But thanks for having me on. I always love talking theme parks with you. It was a lot of fun, as always.
Well, we always love having you on the show, Marissa. This is Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. In just a moment, my wife Courtney will be joining me for another dining review. Right now, I just want to remind everyone that with all of these things returning to Walt Disney World, you may be starting to think about that next trip. In addition to what we mentioned, we also know that All-Star Music and Sports are getting ready to reopen, as is the very popular Port Orleans Resort. I am an authorized Disney travel planner, and my services are always 100% free to you. Just a $200 deposit can lock in your next Disney vacation. Contact me at rick@eartotheretravel.com, rick@eartotheretravel.com, or 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123. Now let's talk some food. My wife Courtney is back for another dining review. How are you doing, Court?
Hey, I'm doing well, Rick.
Today we've got a dining review for our recent visit to Biergarten at the Germany Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. This is an all-you-care-to-enjoy restaurant. It used to be buffet style, but now it is more of a family style experience because of everything going on since the parks reopened. It is $46 per adult plus tax and gratuity, and $25 per child 3 to 9 plus tax and gratuity. Over the course of this review, we're going to talk about entertainment, we're going to talk about theming, we're going to talk, of course, about food quality, but those things exist outside of Disney. One of the things we all love about Walt Disney World, Disneyland, all of the Disney parks, the cast members. The cast members take these experiences from being good and turn them into great to exceptional. Biergarten was a prime example of that fact. Our hostess, when we first walked to check in for our reservation, was Lindsay from Sonoma State. She actually let us check in a little earlier than our reservation time, and that really helped us out with everything that was going on that day. It was pouring. It was hard to find a place to sit and not get wet. She definitely helped get everything going in the right direction right from the beginning.
I wanted to mention Candy, who was our hostess. She was seating us at our table, and she kind of explained how the process would go with the meal being all you care to enjoy, being brought to your table. And additionally, she was very gracious in, of course, asking if there were any food allergies or concerns, vegetarian or vegan needs, etc. And on top of that, we said, wow, we're really getting such great service right off of the bat, great customer service. And she said, well, that's what you're supposed to expect from Disney. And we do, but we try not to take it for granted.
And then our server completed the trifecta of awesome service. He was Dilly from Philadelphia, so yes, he's Dilly from Philly. He was so attentive, of course, as anybody who's listened before knows, I'm a vegetarian, so at a restaurant like this one, that was a very specialized meal that I was getting. He noticed that I was taking pictures of a lot of the food for my social media pages, so he literally made sure to bring out aesthetically pleasing plates so that we could have really, really good pictures. I know that benefits the restaurant as well, because if people see these aesthetically pleasing plates, they're going to more be interested in going to the restaurant. But that was still very thoughtful of him. And I'll tell you what, I can throw down Diet Cokes when I don't have to pay for refills, and he was bringing a lot of Diet Cokes. He was really, really on the ball there, so I appreciate that as well. Dilly from Philly did an excellent, excellent job. And one more thing to add about the service at these all-you-care-to-enjoy restaurants that used to be buffets. I'm not 100% sure how Disney is working that behind the scenes, but I imagine these servers are doing a lot more work than they were doing before the closures. Whether they were working at Biergarten when it was a buffet-style situation and they didn't have to go up and get all of your food, or if they're coming from fancier restaurants that normally charge a little more for food where they would be getting better tips. Understand how much work goes into a family-style all-you-care-to-enjoy meal right now when you can't do it buffet style, and please just tip accordingly. Earlier this year, I had the chance to go to Biergarten with my friend Sean, so this was not my first experience walking inside and seeing all the theming. So I want to start things off by asking you, Courtney, what did you think about the theming and the environment at Biergarten?
Definitely themed well. It is what Disney does best. You are made to feel like you are outside at nighttime with kind of a party atmosphere going on. So there's a moon, there are trees, there's kind of a water wheel going, and then you also see different flags and representations of German culture.
If you're trying to visualize it in your head, it's almost like a German version of inside the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. And then there are just a lot of fake building facades, and there's a stage, of course, with entertainment. We'll get to the entertainment in just a little bit. And the flags Courtney mentioned have different parts of what we now know as Germany. There's a flag for Hamburg. There's a flag for other regions that eventually in the 1870s combined to form what we now call Germany. I think this is one of the things that makes it a restaurant I would do over and over again is that inside theming. Like Courtney said, it's what Disney does best. But what Disney might do second to best is give you great food. So now let's move on to what everybody wants to hear the most, and that is the food. At the very beginning for the table, instead of bread service, they bring you pretzel rolls. These are plant-based, so if you are a vegan, you don't have to worry about it. You can eat these pretzel rolls and use the mustards. Courtney, what did you think about the pretzel rolls?
Pretty good. I think the time we got them, they could have been a little warmer. The two mustards were very good, very quality. There was a kind of house-made, spicier type of mustard. Really liked both of them.
Yeah, honestly, the spicy brown mustard wasn't playing. It was very, very spicy. It was awesome, and it really helped because pretzels are a little bland by nature. That's sort of the way they're made. So to have this nice kick with the spicy brown mustard was really, really good. The other mustard was basically just your standard grocery store yellow mustard. While I agree that the pretzel rolls could have been warmer, we also take a lot of time taking pictures of our food, so maybe that was our fault. The next things to come to the table were the family-style salads. This was a potato salad, a macaroni salad, and the plant-based tomato salad. As I mentioned a little earlier, I was at Biergarten back in February, and I knew that I did not like the macaroni salad, so I didn't even try it this time. The tomato salad, which is plant-based, like I said, is really, really good. It's very fresh. Courtney's going to talk a little bit more about that salad in just a second. What I want to talk about is the potato salad, because I think this is one of my favorite things to eat in all of Walt Disney World. A lot of times, potato salads like this can have too much mayonnaise, they can be too salty, they can mess up in a variety of different ways, but I thought everything here was perfect. There definitely was salt in it, and it made me drink a few more of those Diet Cokes, of course, but I don't like when they make it so bland, where the mayonnaise kind of outshines the onions and different flavors like that. They did not do that here. I could eat this potato salad all day long.
I also really like the potato salad, and the macaroni salad I liked okay, but I think I see what, Rick was saying, that it was bland, it had too much of a mayonnaise flavor, just not a lot going on. Now, the tomato salad was very fresh and refreshing. Even though it was simple, it was sliced cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, and onions and a nice vinegar or vinaigrette. Very refreshing. Really, really enjoyed it.
And one thing that Courtney brought up to me while we were eating at Biergarten was we're originally from South Central Pennsylvania, the Lancaster County area. Of course, everybody knows it for the Amish and the Pennsylvania Dutch culture. So I think that while this is a restaurant that's in Epcot's World Showcase trying to show a different culture from a European country, a lot of these foods were foods we were really accustomed to having at family gatherings, but also having at restaurants in the area. I don't think these were as unique for us as they might be for people coming from other parts of the United States. For example, when we lived in Arizona, we weren't getting a lot of great potato salads when we went to family-style restaurants. So I think we might have been uniquely positioned to enjoy and critique some of these different meals. Now we're going to move on to the family-style skillets. Boy, was this a ton of food. We just got a ton of food, so we're not going to be able to go over each and everything quite like we do in other dining reviews. But Courtney, just talk about some of the meats that you got because you eat meat and I'm a vegetarian.
Right, and I also wanted to mention that the portions were, very well done. They were giving you a taste of everything, but not a ton, and you could always request more of something if you wanted it. It was a feast. I mean, it was a ton of food and a lot of options. So in terms of meat, there were 2 different sausages and then a frank, which was a little bit more like a hot dog. Very quality, very flavorful, lot of different spices going on. And I actually am not too much of a sausage person, but I enjoyed these more than I thought I would. There was also some roast chicken breast, just feeling like it came fresh out of the oven, baked very nicely.
I got a D in high school German, so I'm going to mess up a ton of these names, but there was Spatzel was part of the main skillet, and that is some sort of noodle type dish. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't anything spectacular, but it was really, really quality. Obviously, I know they want to load you up with carbs so you don't eat as much meat. I understand why it's there, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it. There was a warm potato salad, which was almost like a sauerkraut version of potatoes, and it was good. I would rather, if I was going to load up on potatoes, though, do the potato salad that came earlier in the meal, and I did get a couple second helpings of that. There was sauerkraut, which somebody from South Central Pennsylvania, we definitely got our share of sauerkraut growing up. I didn't think this was quite as good as the sauerkraut I was used to having as a kid, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a knock there. I didn't try any of the green beans because I am a weird vegetarian who doesn't like vegetables. But Courtney, I know you had some of those green beans and you tried the plant-based red cabbage. What did you think about those 2 dishes?
Yeah, I've had green beans before at Disney and very fresh, buttered. And then the red cabbage was a little bit sweet and I really enjoyed that.
And then after that, Dilly from Philly brought us more food, including the plant-based sausage. All right, honest talk, I wasn't a huge fan of the plant-based sausage. When I went the last time, they had plant-based beefless tips, and I wasn't really impressed with those either, so I'm thinking the fake meats, they still haven't gotten 100% right at Biergarten yet. You could definitely taste that there was a lot of bread filling in it. Now, that also came out with the macaroni and cheese. Like I said, I'm a vegetarian. I am not a vegan, so I can have the mac and cheese. And this is the star of the show. I love the potato salad that you get at the beginning of the meal, but make sure you save some room for the macaroni and cheese. Oh my goodness.
I could eat this all day. I agree with you. It was as if someone made it in their home from scratch, baked. It wasn't very creamy. It was more of a buttery base and with a lot of melted cheese on top, but definitely a home-cooked feeling. Not too heavy, just right.
When she says a lot of different cheeses melted on the top, you have to cut it with a knife. You can't just scoop it with your spoon or fork. You have to cut this with a knife. There's so much cheese on top of it. It was decadent.
I also even forgot to mention, because literally there was so much food, it was a feast, that there are also meatballs, more that kind of Swedish meatball style with a brown gravy, very tasty, and also pork schnitzel, which is very thin pork chops that are fried, and I really liked the flavor of those.
And then after all that, it was time for our family-style dessert platter. We kind of split this up by item. I tried the apple strudel with vanilla sauce. This was really good. It was basically vanilla sauce poured on what would be like an apple pie. Anybody from South Central Pennsylvania has had a ton of strudel in their lives. I'm sure it is something that is equally as common in Germany. And then I had the cookies, which were chocolate chip cookies, just that standard, almost like your grandmother was baking them for the holidays. Maybe not my grandmother. My grandmother was Irish, and she probably would have burnt them, not making cookies in a German style. But you definitely have had cookies that have tasted like this before. A nice way to kick off a very, very filling meal. You might not be able to finish your cookies. I think if you slip them into napkins and put them in your bags, I don't think Disney security is going to arrest you. I wasn't able to have the cheesecake with berry compote because the cheesecake had gelatin in it, and as a vegetarian, I can't eat gelatin. And I had had some of the Black Forest roll when I went back in February, and I just wasn't really a fan. So I left those two things for Courtney to dominate, and I know she loved at least one of them.
So the one item was a chocolate Black Forest cake because it had a little bit of a cherry filling. I liked it okay. You really have to like that cherry and chocolate combination, otherwise you might not like this. And the chocolate cake was just not a standout for me. The cheesecake, however, I really loved. I really enjoyed it. It was very light and refreshing. It was kind of the perfect way to end the meal because it was so light. I really loved the berry compote. Again, very fresh. And the cheesecake was not dense at all. It was very light, very refreshing. Also had thin layers of a very light cake.
And then I also want to mention that your non-alcoholic beverages are free. They come with the meal. Obviously, free refills on soda, freshly brewed iced tea, and German Spezi, I want to say, which is Coca-Cola and Fanta Orange, which sounds horrible to me. But if that's your thing, you can get that all you can drink. And I'm kicking myself for not taking advantage of this, but freshly brewed Joffrey's coffee. So if you ever just want to take a to-go cup with you after you've had this really great meal and just walk around World Showcase and drink a coffee, you might want to take advantage of that because Joffrey's coffee is fantastic. And it's a nice way to let your meal settle because you're not going to run right to Mission Space Orange after eating at Biergarten, trust me. Just a quick note on the entertainment. They do have a traditional style German band that performs just about every hour. I think it's like 15 minutes after the hour. It's really fun. They create a fun environment. Obviously, Courtney and I don't really drink. I don't drink at all. She rarely drinks. So we didn't take advantage of all of the beer and wine selections. But people were holding up their Pilsners and singing along to some of the German drinking songs. It is a fun experience. You get a lot of food in a very well-themed building, and you get live entertainment. So while $46 per adult is certainly not cheap, by Disney standards, I think you are getting a lot with this meal. Would I do it every time I went to Epcot? Of course not. But every once in a while, for a special occasion, it's not a hard reservation to acquire. I think this is a good option for your family.
I definitely agree. It's something that the whole family can enjoy. If you are siding towards someone who, likes to drink beer and alcoholic beverages, it's a very fun environment as well, but again, still family friendly. The entertainment was really great. It is a heavy meal, so you don't want to go there all the time, but it's something that you should experience. You should try it. Definitely fun, definitely part of the Epcot experience, and we recommend it.
Thank you so much for joining me, Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick.
For Marissa from Chicago and my wife, Courtney, I am Rick Doherty. Thank you for listening. We will be back with a brand new episode of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty next Thursday. Until then, have a great week.